I have Chrome and Edge opened, two completely separate browsers. So let me show you what this is. So see this line item right here at the top, SKU 2009? Let me delete that. And when I delete it, it's going to disappear from the other browser on the right hand side. Watch this. 3, 2, 1. And see how it disappeared over there? So what happened is there's a WebSocket connection on the background that sends a message. The back end sends a message to all the front end clients. You can actually see that message if you look right there. See inventory deleted and the row that is to be deleted. So we can do this again as well. Let's select right here 28602 and delete that. And then this happens to all the clients. So let me just explain essentially what this is. So SignalR is an abstraction that uses WebSockets, server-side events, and HTTP long polling. So even on my phone as well, or an old mobile scanner, like Internet Explorer, this would still work on it because it'd be resorting back to HTTP long polling. The goal of what this does is it has real-time connection between the back end and all the front end clients. This can be used for many purposes, but what we're doing is state management. We want to maintain the state of the objects so that we can reduce glitches and so that the real-time events are reflected before you have to do a refresh. So normally what happens is when you load your application, you'll see a whole bunch of requests to the back end and we're trying to pull in data. What this now is doing is that we're modifying this inventory list or any list in real time. So let me go to the code and kind of show you what I mean. So in our inventory, this is just a normal .NET controller. We have our inventory delete with an ID. We run our business logic, and then we just send a message. We do a background task, because if it fails, it's okay. We'll still log it as well. But what happens is we send the message that you just saw previously, inventory deleted and the ID, and then we just send it to the SignalR hub. Now this is very easy to set up. The SignalR hub is this right here. It's that /myhub URL that you would have saw we get connected to. See right here, right there, the WebSocket WSS, that's the WebSocket, and then over here as well you'd be able to see the same thing. We're connecting, let me just move my camera, we're connecting to that /myhub URL. Now let me go back. So we send out that message, and then on the back end I made kind of my model right here. And TypeScript, we have a little bit more flexibility to kind of enforce it a little more stronger. But it's a very simple message. It's 3 parts. It's going to be the module that we want to send the message to. For example, inventory is what we were talking about before. But you can do this for all the modules of your Angular application, anything you want to maintain state in. And what happens is the implementation that I did was just observables that we subscribe to. So what happens is the SignalR, there's an event handler for the queues that we want. As you saw back here, I sent it to the global queue. So then I set up an event handler in here for this queue. But I can also do other stuff. So I have a test queue that I just log the message, the test. The global queue is what we're doing for state management. And it's very simple. Whenever the message comes in, we just see what module it's for, and then we just send up that through the behavior subject. It then goes to the observable that you can subscribe to in your components. It's very, very simple. So with the service we made, it's just a normal service connecting to that URL from over here. Very simple to do. Now when a message comes in, we handle it in our component however we want. So I have the created, update, and deleted, and this is going to be the same logic throughout all your components. The order component is modified the exact same way. We would push to add a new object in. We would map to re-give a new array based on the criteria here where we just want to replace the updated object. And then deleted, we're just removing it. So you can filter it by that deleted ID. And that's all you have to do. It's a very easy but effective implementation that allows you to maintain state between your application, and it works seamlessly, and it's free. SignalR is free. That's another amazing thing as well. Now there's two other things. I'm going to talk about NgRX and Redux later. Right now I just want to go over the authentication and how that works. So what we do is in our SignalR on the front end, we append our JSON web token, just like how you would probably have a basic auth interceptor that does something like this depending on how your authentication works. Every request will have their JSON web token appended to it. So do that as well. Allow anonymous authentication in your backend, and then it'll be handled through your normal authentication middleware. Very, very easy to set up, very secure, fast, safe, effective. Now the other thing I want to talk about is NgRX. What it does in the Redux architecture is front end only, and it's a standardized way to do what I just did here. That's all it is. The reason why you would want to learn NgRX and Redux is when you're working in an enterprise architecture. A lot of large companies, when you have a large team, you want a standardized way to do it. You don't necessarily want to go to learn Steve's way to do it, although you can. This is perfectly effective for the two-person team that I have working on this project. This is very basic. It does exactly what we need, and we can modify it however we want and extend it out. So that's, you don't need to know it. That's what I'm trying to clarify. You don't actually have to learn NgRX unless you're in an enterprise environment where there's many developers and that's the standard you guys are working on. The NgRX is just a different way to solve a problem that can be effectively solved other ways as well. This right here is an effective way as well. You have your observables and you subscribe to them in your components and modify it out that way. Yeah, I think that's it. I gave you a pretty good overview. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else I'd want to explain? The only other thing I guess I'd want to mention is that SignalR has nothing to do with NgRX or Redux, and also doesn't really even have anything to do with state management. SignalR is just a way to establish real-time communication between our back end and all of our front ends. It's like a publisher-subscriber model, and you can implement this yourself. For example, if you want to program your WebSockets on the back end and front end, you absolutely can. It makes no difference. The only reason why I would use SignalR is because I've used it in the Azure cloud, and also it's a easy abstraction. For example, I don't want to write my own WebSockets. I don't want to do HTTP long polling, server-side events. It's already been done. That's the whole point. So SignalR is free, and it's an abstraction based around many, many ways to make your browser establish a real-time connection to the backend. So I cannot find a reason to not use SignalR. But having said that, it's important to understand that behind the scenes, SignalR is just a WebSocket, and you can set this up yourself, doing the front end and back end. And it's not just the WebSocket. It's gonna look for the WebSocket first. But if your browser doesn't support it, for example, this is warehouse software. We have like mobile scanners out in our warehouse. I don't think they support WebSocket. It's really old Internet Explorer, but it does support HTTP long polling. So that's why I use SignalR. It's amazing and free. Really, really easy to use, and you construct your messages however you want. There's really no limitations. You're sending an object. That's all it is, and then you receive your object, handle it out, and understand kind of what's happening. It's an observable that you then subscribe to in your component. It's very, very simple, but very, very effective. And you can also use this for a lot of other stuff. You can set up a notifications queue. Maybe you want your users to have a message that pops up when an event happens, maybe there's something you want to happen. So you can set up different queues. The real-time communication is not only for state management. SignalR has a whole bunch of use cases. So I hope I was able to clarify and show you guys really what this is all about.